Hey, superhuman. Yeah, you. I'm talking to you. Stop scrolling. I'm talking to you. You have a superpower. I'm going to break it down for you and tell you how to unlock it. Unless you happen to be from a country like Nepal, in which case you already know you have superpowers, you don't need this video. You can keep scrolling. Or you can just stay if you want to hear something about Sherpa people and why they're so awesome. For the rest of us regular humans, there's some good news. The Institute of Noetic Sciences recently came out with a study, peer-reviewed study, about how humans can unlock their maximum human potential, and it's called Upsight Vision. Do you wonder why people have been seeing UFOs and Bigfoot and all of these things around lately? It's not because those things weren't there before, it's because we didn't know how to see them before. And so with the new study, they're showing you that when you put your brain waves, you move from like left brain, very alpha brain waves to right brain waves, which we can get with meditation, doing art, things like that. Then you're able to move into a flow state that unlocks your superpower. But first, let me tell you where this all started for me. This idea of humans having superpowers isn't actually new. In fact, it comes from ancient mysticism and ancient wisdom. If you think about it, think about in Buddhism, they say the Tibetan lamas could levitate from the Himalayas. And we have all kinds of wisdom that talks about humans having superpowers. And back in 2008, I met up with this guy, Jeff Kripal, a scholar at Rice University, and he was in the midst of writing this book, which is really awesome, but it has to do with comic books, superheroes, and how mystics had predicted this all along, that we all have this superpower, which in ancient Hinduism is called a siddhi or siddhis. So these are our superpowers. And I said, you know what, Dr. Kripal, I got to find out more about this. I'm going to head out to Nepal and figure out what this is all about. Now, it took me 17 years to actually figure it out for myself, but I'm going to let you know what IONS is telling you today about how you can speed up the process and find your own superpower. So this is a lot, and I'm going to go through this step by step. If you want to find a really awesome influencer that is talking about all this stuff, go on to at Dana Kippel, and she talks all about this stuff too, and she's super awesome. I'm going to do a several part series on this, so go ahead and follow me, and we'll talk about this tomorrow and the next day and the next day. But right now, I'm going to give you the basics of what this study, Upsight Vision, is telling you. So the brain's alpha power significantly decreased during the upsight state, meaning when you were in that meditative state or the flow zone that you get with an endurance sport, your alpha power, think about that, because everybody wants to be an alpha, but is that really where you're finding your superpower? No, because alpha is a control state. So you need to let go. So the alpha power decreased. And then the brain was able to go into a non-thinking state, non-focused state. Exactly what you're taught to do in meditation. Exactly how you feel when you're running and you're on mile 10 or mile 20 and you get into the zone. But then something tricky happens. And if you've been a meditator, you know that this happens to you. So then the brain starts working harder to filter, right? Once you start to go into the flow state, your brain starts to work harder to filter. Why? Because it's clinging on to this reality. So instead of allowing yourself to open and get the images and the download and everything that you could be getting, the brain has an automatic limiter that says, whoa, 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 I'm about to go out of reality here. I need to work harder. So you need to get past that state. And that's where endurance sports, traumatic events, hate to say it, but it's true, open that crack in your brain that allows you to become the bigger self or get the download of the higher self. Okay, and here's where things get truly amazing. And we're hearing a lot about this right now with the UAP phenomenon. Unlike a hallucination, the participant reported being able to interact or even transform the thing he was seeing. So that's where the upsight vision comes in. And again, if you want to know more about this, Dana Kipple on her channels breaks this down really nicely and scientifically. So go check her out. But I want to just talk about it in this way. So when we're talking about the UAP or abduction phenomenon today, you're talking about people who are having what maybe seems like interdimensional or from a different place, and it's in their vision, and sometimes they see it and other people don't see it. Again, it's not because it's not there, it's just because for whatever reason they're unlocking their superpower and they are able to start seeing things that are in reality, true reality, that we have filtered out, that our logical mind has filtered out, because that is what we have been taught from the time we were able to build a construct in our mind of what our reality is. And that construct comes from your culture, your family, your school, and where you were born, which is why I'm going to tell you now about the Sherpa people of Nepal and why they are considered to have superpowers. High altitude Nepali porters can carry up to 200% of their own weight. And they're climbing day after day up to around 20,000 feet, sometimes up to 7,000 meters. So we're talking heavy loads, high altitude, low oxygen. Meanwhile, people in the United States and in the Western world are trying to run 26 miles without dying and just carrying a water bottle. So there is something hugely different going on here. And I'll tell you what it is. First of all, over thousands of years of genetic adaptation, their bodies have become accustomed to low oxygen, high altitude. We know that even their fingertips don't get frostbite and on their fingers, their toes, their nose, that type of thing. I know I live with a Nepali person. My husband's Nepali, and he is hot all the time. His hands are hot, his body is hot, and that type of thing. So we have the genetic adaptation. And then also they have a psychological, spiritual difference that we just don't have. They don't have the belief that they can't do it or they shouldn't be able to do it, or that these type of human superpowers are not real. They live in an animist, Hindu, Buddhist culture where these things are very real every day. And they're taught that. They're taught that the highest self has that. In fact, I told you earlier about siddhis and how your siddhi is your superpower. That comes from the Hindu Vedic tradition. So how are you going to unlock your own superpowers? First, you're going to do something that gets you into the liminal state. This can be meditation, prayer, running, fast walking until you've put yourself to your limits, but you need to get into the liminal state. That is the secret to unlocking this power. Second, you're going to go on to the IONS website, or you're going to pick up books like this by Jeffrey Kripal, other things, and start to read and understand how you have created a construct in your mind that is allowing you to see your reality in only one way. And that has been dictated to you. You need to break through that. That is why trauma breaks through these constructs, and that is why people who have had traumatic experiences often also have mystical experiences, because the trauma breaks down the reality in a way that it forces the human to go, I got to look at this in a different way. I have to see myself as bigger than this. Then you're going to follow me where we're going to break it down. If you're into the woo, then this is for you. Welcome to Pink Field, where I introduce you on a daily basis to Gnosticism, esotericism, and mysticism. I'll see you next time.